Hi, I'm Hi, and I thought I'd do. Gosh, this is gonna be what, chapter 11. I'm um I'm in the mood to do them, and so and I want to get high because this world is very depressing to me, and I feel the weight of the world on me, and so I've just been feeling kind of off the last couple of days. I think I'm gonna be coming down with a cold. I got like pain in my inner ear and congested, very mild congestion, but still. I think I sneezed a couple times. So I made a green smoothie with lots of ginger and turmeric, even pumpkin pie spice in there. Oh, and cayenne in there too. Of course, with my greens and such. I have lemon water and trying to do gentle movement around the apartment. So I'm not sitting all day. Um, it's good to get the body up, and especially when you have rheumatoid arthritis or any type of arthritis, you gotta get up or and like move your body. It really does help. Oh, that's my PSA for those living with autoimmune diseases, including rheumatoid arthritis or any type of arthritis or chronic pain for that matter. Having said all that, I thought I would talk about a really lovely to me, or just like right out of a movie, but it was real and it was very magical for me. Time in my life, uh, and that's why I chose a song to this chapter. Thunder Road, the live version from the Roxy Theater. I'll link it down below, obviously. But we made mixtapes back then, and I had also bought the double album of Bruce Springsteen and E Street Band's live in concert. I got it on tape so we could listen to it in my car, and we knew that all those songs. I played that over and over and over again, and Thunder Road was um, our favorite, and there were many wonderful. Like I said, I used to listen to the album all the time, double album all the time. And but Thunder Road, I felt like was a song we shared. We used to. This was in high school, and I had my driver's license. I got it as soon as I could because I was living out of district, and I was going to have to drive myself to school with my parents, mother and stepfathers. Um, 79 Plymouth Horizon hatchback. And I had to learn stick shift, which they call manual now. But I'm actually really glad I learned stick. Uh, if it weren't for my RA, I prefer stick. I feel like you have more control over the car. Oh, funny the segues we go into. But I have to say, as someone with RA, I do appreciate automatic. Um, I am grateful for whatever I have. Right now, I don't have a car at all. But anyway, I digress. Um, so I guess it'd be Friday nights or whenever night we weren't working. I think we both had jobs during high school. I think I had to pay for gas or something. We worked at Shoney's together. Oh my gosh. This is my childhood best friend. And she will always be dear to me. Um, we were just like Laverne and Shirley. At least that's what I thought. She was Shirley and I was Laverne. And of course, our initials were the same too. And there were three of us. Um, and the other dear friend, and she had been good friends forever. And so had my other this friend and I been friends for a long time. Not quite as long, I don't think. But I'm not comparing anything. But for some reason, she and I just clicked, clicked. Just as she and our other friend had their own special relation, their own special friendship. There were things that they were privy to that I wasn't, and maybe vice versa. I don't know. That's just always the impression I got. But then, of course, I grew up in a very unkind household, so um, I was suspicious from an early age, I think. Well, my nervous system was constantly on trying to process people's emotions. So I may have, you know, seen what wasn't there. Anyway, I digress again. But so she and I would go like a Friday night or Saturday night, get out of the house, and I guess I would pick her up at her house, which was her parents' house, and we'd stick the music in. We'd get out our Virginia Slim Lights, which is what we smoked back then, and we would go. First, we would. I'm trying to think. We'd go from one end to Route One within a certain, because Route One goes on forever. We went from one point to Route One. We'd cruise all the way, like almost up into Baltimore, and then we turn around and we cruise back down in the summertime with the windows down, smoking our some lights, and listening to songs like Thunder Road. And I remember her favorite lyric. I had to write it down, but after all these years, I remember her favorite lyric was, quote, "Make crosses from your lovers, throw roses in the rain," end quote. Up the song, down. So, and mine was when he, of course, there's a part about them in the car with the windows down, letting the wind blow back their hair, quote unquote. I paraphrased that, which also, I mean, that's exactly what we were doing, the two of us. But I also like the way Springsteen. I don't know if he had any co-writers to this song, but he described Thunder Road as, quote, lying out there like a killer in the sun, end quote. I just always really loved that imagery. Um, well, that's why I just loved that whole. I loved Springsteen back then. He's he's an incredible songwriter, and it's funny too because his lyrics about, you know, this town. We're not going to get anywhere in this town. We're not going to do anything different than everybody else in this town. We're going to do the same thing, and it's not going to be what we want. And it's about getting the hell out while you still can before, you know. And I find it really interesting. Not that I'm equating my childhood home and my home state, um, or anything, but I obviously have reasons for wanting to escape, if not my home state, at least my the very dysfunctional childhood homes. Um, and she was a very artsy type of person, and I think she must have written, but she was very artistic, and she loved that imagery for Roses in the Rain. Um, and I think that's the whole song is just absolutely that live version, especially. There's a faster version, which I guess is the original recording of it was a fast version, but the live version just love Bruce Springsteen. There's so many great songs on that. Of course, obviously, it's all of his best stuff, but that song just really spoke to me. And I'm sure it spoke to her as well, but I find it really interesting that she has stayed in her home state, in our home state. And I think a lot of that has to do with she came from a happy family. No family is perfect, but a pretty well-adjusted, loving family, a tight family unit, and and not like Maryland was like out in the beans or anything like that. You could work anywhere in Maryland, but you could also, including Baltimore and Baltimore City, but also DC, very close to DC. So it's not like you're, uh, you know, whatever. Um, but I got out as soon as I got married, because my then new husband had wanted to live in out west, and I said, sure, why not? I think subconsciously my body was saying, get the hell out of Dodge. Um, it didn't matter where I was. I was never going to feel at home anywhere because I was so um, unhealed and very traumatized, and suppressing that trauma, hiding it and playing different roles for different people, like being a different person for different people. Um, and she was one of the people I felt like didn't have to do that as much. Both of my dear friends, but the one who would cruise Route 1, you spell it Ruta Uno. My what color was it? It was like a sparkling, not mustard. I guess like a dark tan, with a little hint of sparkle. 79 Plymouth Horizon hatchback. I remember like the ceiling was, I don't know, some asbestos ceiling cover, and it started falling off. I would find it in my hair. I drove the hell out of that car. But I don't even remember like talks we had, but we must have had talks. But we would sing to those songs, and smoke our cigarettes. I told you the best compliment I ever got in my entire life, and I'm really kind of big deal. Well, one of the only compliments I've ever gotten in my life, and it wasn't by a family member. It was from her, and it was that she thought I looked cool when I smoked, which I think is a great compliment. Seriously, because I thought of myself as the most uncool, awkward. Well, yeah, I was just either too much or not enough, and I was, like I said, I had trauma, tons of unhealed trauma, and there's going to be more to come. And cigarettes, obviously, coffee and cigarettes, obviously, my way of dealing with that, because I didn't know there were, and nobody in my family said anything about, yes, you should probably get some help, because then they would have to look in the mirror and say, oh, we need some help, and they weren't going to do that. And I get it, I get it. But oh, anyway, that song, I just listened to it again, and it just the same feeling. It makes me think of, actually, because this friend and I also, she had come with me when I visited my mom's parents in upstate New York. And it's a smallish blue collar town. And I, of course, spent my childhood summers there. I loved it. We had our we had summer friends there, and one of whom we called Bunky. I cannot remember what her given her, you know, the name on her birth certificate, unless it was Bunky. But we all called her Bunky, and she had an older sister who lived next door to my grandparents' house, he was my because he adopted my mother when he married my Hannah. So he was my adopted grandfather, but I always just called him Bert. He just was grandpa to me. And he built that house for them. And actually, I would love to have that house now, except I'd have to do something about the stairs. I'd have to change the stairs. But the man, um, extremely extremely frugal. He stopped smoking when he used to roll his own cigarettes. If you had seen Young Pictures of the Sky, he was a dapper, tall looking gentleman. Very, very James Stewarty looking, from like the 40s, 30s, 40s. And I had seen pictures of him, of course, in his younger years. And he cut quite a figure. And but he built that house, and I always loved the house. Nana loved her granddaughters very much so, and he loved us, but he wasn't. I could tell he wasn't really a kid, not kid, grandkid person, because I believe he and my mother had a very close relationship too, or grew to have a very close relationship too. Um, but yeah, so she visited with me. Oh god, we were 15, 16. Just about the same time we're driving around Route 1 back in our home state. And of course, I've known the kids on my Nana Street since as far back as I could remember, because we just always visited there in the summertime. My dad's parents lived in the same town. 2 for 1. But, and both were fun. But the kids on that street, there was a house that would just, to me, always reminded me of the Happy Days house, the Cunningham house, which is just, every traumatized child's dream is to be a member of the Cunningham family. And so there was a house on that street, not quite as grand, but in my eyes, and the family that lived there, the Barneses. I wonder how they're all doing. I think Richie Barnes became a coach. But yeah, they had a creek running behind their house. I wish I could remember all the names of everyone. There was a Darren. who I had a crush on, but also had a crush on Bobby Williams. But everybody had a crush on Bobby Williams. He and my sister, I think, were the same age. So who knows? Maybe they went on. I don't know. But he also ended up dating my Rudo Uno childhood best friend. They ended up dating, and I was jealous for about 5 minutes because I already knew that before then, you know, uh, I knew there was no way, and I was like fine with it. I, I had accepted the fact that our history was not going to go in that direction, uh, or end that way, or whatever. But it's not, and so they dated for several years. But anyway, that town, very Bruce Springsteen, very Thunderwood. Um, and so I remember the four of us because it was Bobby Williams and then uh, my cruising buddy and I, and then Bobby had a friend. And what was his name? Was his name Bob too? Anyway, I got no offense, but and it's not like it did anything. It was very chaste, at least on my part. Make out or whatever, but it was probably a forced attraction on both parts, just because we were, they were the main, they were the Sandy and Danny, right, and I was the, the redheaded chick, or the one I did that impression with. The side, I was in that position that night, and there was, they had an extra, which was nice of them, to find me someone to hang out with. But I think it wasn't one side. I mean, he was. It was just he liked me more than I liked him. He felt it could be serious, and I disagree. And but that's okay. That's really young. I think he ended up going in the Navy. It was okay. Whatever happened to him, and Bobby Williams. I can't remember the last time I saw him. Oh, 30 years, probably. Gosh, I got to be careful now because I'm 55. Right? At least 30 years. But yeah, I mean that town was, and hanging out in the summertime there because you hang out by the railroad tracks. Um, it had Thunder Road written all over it, and we would I guess we would cruise around there too, or just walk around. There was a pizza place that grew up loving, um, Pudgies Pudgies Pizza. It was like the sheet pan pizza before, the Maryland one, which is very good. God, I look like I have palsy. Actually, my hand does get kind of like that sometimes. I don't think it's palsy. I think it's going to. I'm just careful about which hand I hold my hot beverage in. But yeah, so um, yeah, they dated for several years, and then they stopped. And I mean, like I said, this was late teens, early 20s, and like I said, I the nostalgia of that and the bittersweetness of that. Um, it's like I grew up with that kid, and then she stole it from me. That's deep down. I have kind of felt that way a little bit, but at the same time, knowing that you and I could never be more than like a big brother, little sister type of thing. But that dynamic even changed. You know what I'm saying? When dating someone, especially like your best friend or one of your best friends, um, changes the dynamic. Especially when they've only known you for, you know, they met you once, 1 week, one summer. You know, anyway, I'm over it. I really am over it. But that song really, I just thought that had to be like, I thought I'd get it in my top 10. It'll make 11, but yeah. Um, I'll make that my album of the week. I'll put down there because it's a wonderful. I wish I could have seen Springsteen, young Springsteen. When I was young too, because I don't do concerts anymore. I can't afford it, and I'd rather listen or watch it from the comfort of my own home at this point. Theater seats in the city are made for people from the 1920s and 30s, and they very, very tiny people back then. And I'm sure there are some lovely theaters with seating that is um, usable and comfortable for today's size body, but I have not met. I don't make enough money to go to those theaters, I suppose. But anyway, yeah. So I did go see, and this is when my friend G came to town. He comes into town once or twice a year, and he'll be coming to town next month. I'm so excited. But last time he was here, he got his tickets to see, and I have to say I was anxious about it because big, crowded spaces. I just didn't know how I was going to do. But anyway, we were going to see Billy Joel at Madison Square Garden. I had never seen him, and I've never been to Madison Square Garden. And he was fabulous. He sounded absolutely wonderful. And I didn't think I would, but I stood up and sang my sour horse to all of the songs. I give him a 9.5, or should I say 4.5 out of 5, because he brought his two young daughters on stage, two kids, to sing a song which they didn't do very well. And I'm just tired of these ancient, I'm sorry to your kid, these 70-year-old men having kids. You're going to be dead. They're going to lose their father probably in their teens, if not sooner. If they're lucky, their early 20s. That's fucked up. Then you have to go without your dad for most of your life. I just think that's, who else does that? Is that Al Pacino or Robert DeNiro too? Just, no. I don't vibe with that at all. Especially, you can tell these people are not in the best of health. And I know that because I'm not a doctor, and I don't know them, and they never spoke to me about their health. But, they have plenty of money to get the best health care possible. But they're probably both taking like statins or whatever you take for like high cholesterol or high blood pressure. I bet they're at least both taking those, which is not a sign of good health actually. Um, like I said, I'm just uh, articulating a thought. I have no proof that this is true, but people are dying younger than ever. That's what I'm saying. You have these kids who aren't going to ever know their father. That's abandonment, and I think that's wrong. How selfish can you be? I mean, we can all be really selfish, myself included. But I mean, to bring a kid into this world that you're going to like die in 5 years, and that's traumatic. Losing a parent is traumatic when you're young, especially permanently losing. You know, I just, that's why that whole scene from, why I find the movie still gets to me. It definitely gets to me. There's fine acting in it. Steel Magnolias, even though I'm not a big Julia Roberts fan, and his character made me like her even less. Because when you think of the storyline, you know, Shelby, that was her name. Blush and Bash, that's what her color was. And she was a nurse. I think she was a neonatal nurse. And she was getting married to, I can't remember the actor's name, but she didn't seem like all of that. I think she was, I don't know what her reasoning was for doing it, except that she was settling, or this was the best. I don't know. She just didn't seem like, she's like, all right, let's get this over with. You know? Which is a great foundation on which to decide that you want to get pregnant with your own biological child, even though you have type 1 diabetes. And that should be enough. Let me tell you, when I first saw the film, when it first came out, I didn't have these thoughts. But as I've gotten older, I think I'm coming down with something. I've had like a inner ear pain and like sensitive skin. First it was on this side, sensitive skin around my eyes, bad eyes, that side of eye. And then it's moved over here. I have like some inner ear pain, and I feel like the right side of my neck, my throat is sensitive. Anyway, so letting you know I'm on it. I got my green smoothie going. I have lemon water. I'm gonna make a tofu scramble tonight. I had nourishing oatmeal with the rest of my stewed apples. Yes, I am a homesteader. uh, First of all, I couldn't do that here. And second of all, I don't do that. I will never do that. But yeah, I stewed my own apples, and I know that got me completely off topic. Oh, but I wasn't feeling that great. Like my mood was kind of off, and then I had this weird thing. But no, it's this side. It's on this side now. I'm getting confused because, you know, but no, it's not real effect. It's yeah. Oh goodness. Yeah. Anyway, it was funny. I can't remember where I left off there, but interestingly enough, I left our home state, you know, like 27, and I think I moved back there once again, maybe twice. I'm not quite sure. I've moved around a lot the last 15 years, but it feels less and less like home to me. But it's interesting because the third of the three of us, she also moved out of state. And she I got the hell out of there. They were like running from our trauma and family, traumatic family, and, you know, mentally ill, narcissistic, rapist, child abusing father, Alfred Sullivan played the third. running and running. Um, so I find it interesting that song, that song from the Road, how um, I was the one, and I kind of figured I would be. When you look back on it now, I mean, I see Dusty be the one to, because my sister left, my mom left, you know, everybody in my family affected by my horrible father left that state, and that doesn't surprise me. Not that there haven't been difficulties in their current states, but that's more to do with trauma. No matter where, and I've learned that too. No matter where you go, unless you're healing or you're healing from this trauma that keeps you running away or running to something. Like I said, I had this terrible nostalgia for something that I've only experienced like in books and movies. But I also feel like it was part of my life in a way through my friendships and through like the songs I listened to and the movies I watched. Did I say the books I read? Yeah, the books I read. Um, um, yeah, and no, so I'm not surprised that she stayed. Um, actually, um, at all, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's lovely, and that's like a nostalgia thing. Like even though my home life was horrific, and my sister's home life, and my mother's when she was married to my father, um, I am still nostalgic for that time. Not the bad times, but the little the culture around me, um, because those are the things that I always say this. Those are the things that saved me were TV shows and music and being outside. Even as like teenagers, we spent a lot of time outside. Well, I did because I was smoking, and though even back then you could smoke inside still at a lot of places. I'm so glad that's not the case anymore. I remember smoking on a plane. That I think Trixie would. I think Coffee would say that's fierce. I'm just smoking on a plane, and we're not even talking like a good plane. We're talking like economy, you know, puddle jumper type of plane. Well, not quite puddle jumper, but you know what I mean. Domestic flight of like 50 minutes or less. Ow, see my ear. So I'm trying to be good and eat a lot of ginger and turmeric. I think I may have said this before. Try to holistically heal, but I am not averse to picking up NyQuil shit tomorrow morning. I feel I'm sleeping okay, um, but hoping I won't feel any. I don't feel bad. I just feel like something's approaching from the rear, and I want to try to minimize the symptoms as much as possible. Um, so if I'm not here next week, you'll know why. But yeah, and what's also interesting is I mentioned this before too, that I knew when our friendship had kind of ended, it kind of reached the end point. It's something it just blew me away because I just never expected. But you know, when your friends have kids and you don't, it's a very different dynamic. And I was still extremely, unhealed from trauma. And no, but at that point, oh yeah, because I was still married, so I was really, I hadn't started calling out for help and getting help with trauma healing, and that came out really garbage. But afterwards, after I started therapy and trauma healing for the first time, and I I I went from being voiceless to having a voice, and I started to feel very strongly about things. All these things buried in me um, finally had release, and thank goodness it was like compassion and empathy and um, advocacy and speaking out and speaking out what I feel like is who I am and not being afraid to do that. And I remember the last time they invited me over, uh, my cruising friend, and I invited me over to her. It was a picture perfect farmhouse. Just, you know, well, I was Laverne and she was Shirley. Absolutely, absolutely. Um, and of course, I loved that house. And but of course, when one of your friends starts having kids and you don't see them as often. Maybe the first baby is not too bad, but when it comes to three or four, and rightly so, they just don't have, which is sad in a way because that means we're also separated. That she doesn't have any help, a communal help like we used to raise. We used to be these communities where we helped raise each other's children, and you didn't have to pay for childcare. You know what I'm saying? And so, I mean, that's a reason why and that's capitalism is behind that, and they want us separated, isolated from each other. Um, I'm not going to go into much of a rant there, but so anyway, so despite I think the injustice in that, and the fact that she's now cut off, she feels isolated, which I'm sure she did feel isolated from her friends. Her former life has been able to do whatever she, within reason. Now she's married, but do whatever she wanted to now being, you know, a mother, a mother multiple times, and I was just getting the crust out of me. And I'm a little parched, but I'm not going to go get anything yet. I'll wait until I finish. Um, isn't that's so sad how that we have allowed that to be like the norm. Anyway, point is, they had invited me to dinner. And she had 2 or 3 kids at that point, maybe 4. It could have been 4 at that point. And we were talking. We've always talked, her little talk and stuff, and current events and stuff like that. We were adults, whatever. And I don't know how we got on the subject of marijuana, but we did. And I can't remember what it was in reference to, but I remember her saying marijuana is a gateway drug. And I knew at that moment that our time was at an end. To me. The same girl who had a Pi Omega Tau sorority with her two roommates. That's where I had that 4-foot bong in it. Where I just sat in the corner all night because it took me out. That was with her and her very cool roommates too. Because they're very anti sorority, fraternity, and so they made their own Pi Omega Tau, and because they were all like artsy writing majors, I believe, or at least two of them were, and so they did paper cutouts of someone's smoking a doobie, and then the Pi Omega Tau. They made a logo basically for it out of paper, and it was hanging facing outwards on the window. And I know people change, and but that was that 4-foot bomb. That was her. and so, 10 years later, to sit at a table with her, at her table, where she most kindly made vegan food. Like I said, I think she had been vegetarian, if not vegan, early in her life as well. So, and she was a good person in that way. But it was then when I heard her say that, I was like, okay, we've just kind of grown in different ways. And because I disagree with that 110%. And I did back then, and I still do. And I actually, I don't smoke pot, I take gummies, but I wonder if she does. I doubt she does anymore. But who knows now? Because, when I go to get my gummies, I go to Housing Works Kansas. They deliver 2 locations. And the shops are wonderful. And they do wonderful work. But when I go in there are people older than me in there. At least my age, if not older. So who knows? Now they're for kids. Even the youngest one has to be well into his teen years. The rest are adults now in various stages. I guess 20s. Is that right? I guess the run, somewhere in the middle of all those 20s. Yes, that's crazy. It's crazy to me. I remember I knitted I think I knitted blankets for them. This was my for like the first. Well, I think I did them. I think I did them for all of the 4, and then my other friend has 2. She didn't get rid of them. They're very well alive, and what's funny still is I remember her telling me, and it was, I sensed the disappointment in her as I felt, as I felt disappointment, and then I heard her say that marijuana was a gateway drug. Was when she told me, I always thought you'd have 4 boys. And I feel like I really disappointed her. I would not. And thing is, that probably would have happened. That would have been no, 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 no. 4 more Perry boys. No, 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 no. That's not gonna happen. But actually, I could see myself now that I'm in a healing mode. Well into my healing, 15 plus years into my healing journey, and able to hold down a job and have some friends and actually live like a life aligned with my values, which a lot of people aren't and don't. And I think that takes a lot of strength to do that in a culture that abhors that. you know, um, the status quo is very important to, to, to people. They don't like their choices questioned. I'm getting really deep here. I don't even know what I was going to talk about. Oh, well, yeah. So I think going back to it, I sensed the disappointment in the tone of her voice as she said, I always thought you had 4 boys. And like I said, who knows if I had grown up and had the DNA and the childhood and the parenting that she had, maybe I would have. But I didn't. I did not. And so I think it's sorry for disappointing you on that, but I am not the least bit sorry. I did not do that. Not in the least. No, well, the only thing is I was teaching him how to be a real man. A real person. But yeah, a real man. Not what passes for men these days. I'm still pissed about getting groped on the friggin' sidewalk, so y'all can fuck off. Not my subscribers. Any haters. About that, you know. And here we are back in the present. And I think I'm gonna call it a night. I started watching that series, MANDY, and she's wonderful. And of course, I'm watching it high, and as hilarious as it is, it's also, I feel like it's a direct indictment to the way we have been programmed to think we're supposed to live this life, which is like be born in original sin. So you're already a sinner. So be born a sinner, which is like the religious part, which also infiltrates the capitalist part and the patriarchal part. They're all like incestuous. And God damn it, now I can't remember what it was I was going to say. What was I talking about? Oh, I know I should stop and then edit it out, but I can't because I feel like. Oh, the show, MANDY. It's an indictment how you're born into us. You're born being a sinner already. Okay, and so you're indoctrinated from birth to that you are a sinner and that you have to try as hard as you can for as low amount of pay as possible and no real benefits, which should be universally given to people for free: shelter, access to clean water, Wi-Fi. Why the fuck we're paying for Wi-Fi? But I am. And because in the show she's going from crappy job to crappy job, and she gets fired within the day at the most. I'd say on average a day or half a day, and that's what we. And I think that's an indictment against. So we're supposed to struggle. She's like, and she has every right to be like angry and like pick up the phone and people are like, I've waited 6 weeks or whatever, and blah blah blah. And she's like, well, fucking weeks, you know. I mean, she's the only reason people are nice to you on the phone is because they're paying them to be nice to you. Do you know how fucked up that is? And I know I worked retail most of my life. You have we have to be paid to be nice to you because we don't care. We don't care about your meal. We don't care about your blouse purchase. We don't care about your life in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I care on a cosmic and on a compassion, unconditional compassion, mercy level, but I mean, uh, cosmic? I don't know. But I dislike most people. Let's just say I feel like I don't fit in with most people. That's a less aggressive way, I guess, of saying it. But I don't fit in with a lot of people. Even like my dear friends at work, I know they're like, what the fuck, ladies? But they love me anyway. And I love them. Hope that wasn't too soppy if any of you are watching this. But they know I'm in my crone era. I actually saw a book about crone magic, and I may read that book. Um, how to embrace my crone era and add a little sprinkle of magic. No, not Meghan Markle magic. It's like, I don't know, real magic. Okay, I think I should. But yeah, so you try your hardest and you struggle to find a job that gives you any purpose or meaning or joy, and most jobs don't. And then you die. Uh, if you're a person of faith, you're worried whether you're going to make it to heaven or to hell. I don't believe in heaven or hell, so I think you just die, and however you choose to dispose of your body. I have thought of different ways. Well, I think I donated my body to science. Let's not make any more of these. Just, I'm not into DNA manipulation or anything like that. Just take it off the list. Don't need to be there anymore. Um, but yeah, so you spend your whole life trying to be the best person you can because otherwise you'll go to hell or you won't go to heaven. And then you die. And I'm just like, what kind of life is that? And I think that's why she's so pissed off at all these. She's like, what is this? What are we doing? Why? Um, why do I have to? Somebody brought me into this world, and I'm expected to play by the rules of the world I was born into against my will. You know what I'm saying? And then I'm supposed to fall in line with all these rules and regulations you've made, you know, with this, with the assumption being that all of the patriarchy and all the religion and all the capitalism is part of the brew or whatever. Ooh, I'm getting into my holiday. Like I said, I started talking crone and then, but I'd like to be a crone with a little magic. Ever thought of why? Probably find a. I wish I had that picture when my mom made witch costumes for Joel and me. It was in a frame, and it had faded because it probably wasn't the best camera or film. I don't know, but it was also because it was in the 70s, and that's 50 years ago. So, oh my god, I refuse to believe. No, I get it, but actually, I love like that kind of see. It's not quite a sepia tone, but the fadedness of photos, because it's like a metaphor. No, but this. So she took this picture of the two of us. She made these lovely little a black witch uh, cone hats with the wide brim and a robe type thing, a robe garment, and I loved it. And very comfortable for trick or treating because we lived in a big neighborhood and we took pillowcases and we would fill those pillowcases. Like I said, um, we parents didn't even go out with us. We went. All the neighborhood kids just went out into the streets. We have street lamps, and I know that's a privileged thing and a privileged neighborhood to live in. Um, but still, um, we would spend hours there, and we would load up on the candy. And I mean, we went all over the place. And we'd like to see our friends coming this way and that, and some people would do up their houses, good, and others would just give out, here, which is fine by me. I'm here for candy was candy. My favorite at the time was I did like a Snickers, Reese's peanut butter cup, even more than Snickers. I'm trying to think if there was another one. I could eat a Three Musketeer, but only the trial size. I can't eat a whole Three Musketeer anymore. In fact, I haven't eaten it in probably 40 years. Oh, I guess the Reese's Pieces, those were good. Remember, that was about ET time. Yeah. Right? When they use Reese's Pieces in ET. And any of the peanut butter and chocolate, I'm all into that. And we get little lollipops and stuff, and those are fine, but Babe Ruth. I like a Babe Ruth too. That would be controversial. One, Kit Kats are fine. Two, I like the waferiness. That's nice. Um, you didn't really get 100,000 gram bars, which are kind of like they were kind of like the other one I just mentioned. I can't remember. No payday. No payday. No lacquered nuts. No, no payday. So we would trade. Um, we used to get the double bubble gum or whatever that was. That tasted like powder and ilk. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think about like any others really well too. Milky Way was okay too. At the time, I liked the Snickers because of the nuts in them over the Milky Way. But now, because of my dentures, a Milky Way would be a vegan version, of course, would be preferable. Because I'm all about like caramelly. I love caramel too. Just wanted you to know that. And I don't even know, with allergy lists now, and I'm not poo-pooing it, but it's just, it's crazy how, though, I had all these autoimmune diseases, and they just were like, oh, you've got, because uh, eczema is like a form of autoimmune disease. And I had eczema as a kid, and of course I had year-round chronic allergies, which is autoimmune, and chronic sinus infections, and I don't know where I was going with this, but I actually don't get this anymore since I became a vegan. It's absolutely true. Now I feel like in the city, the pollen can get so concentrated that there's been a day here or there where I felt a little congested, but nothing like how it used to be. Oh, but anyway, I'm talking about allergies. It seems like kids nowadays are like allergic to everything, and I don't think that's good. I don't think that's a good indicator of child health. That you're, you know, and like I said, mine was because of my trauma. Um, I'm sure of it, absolutely sure of it. The eczema that became the thyroid. I had a goiter, I had a hypothyroid, I had a hypothyroid, um, and then the rheumatoid arthritis and the Sjogren's syndrome, blah, blah, blah. Plus the RA. I can't, I can't not include the RA. I would be remiss what she's done to me. Yeah. Peter, my lovely friend at work, made me a pin that I put on my lanyard when I go on the train that says, please offer me a seat. It has like the medical logo on top, like whatever. It's got like the medical logo above it. Because I was looking on Etsy for one of those, and it was like $5 for one, which I mean, nothing wrong with that. But I think I may have been telling him about it, and he has a button maker. So he made me a button that says, with the logo that says, please offer me a seat. And it has worked probably about 60% of the time. The issue is that everybody's like this, staring at their phones. But I have to say, women give me their seats more than men. I don't know if it's just because they're more aware than men are. Women are a lot more than men are about a lot of things, and I stand by that. Women are the superior sex, which is why we've been um, uh, ruled and regulated into being subordinate, inferior breeding machines. How's that for the end? And I got all that from binge watching Mandy. You know, most jobs are shitty. Most people can't wait to leave work every day. Most people want to call out every day. You know, I saw this meme that said, "You don't hate Mondays, you hate capitalism," and I'm sure that's a very popular thing to say, but it's so true. It's so true, and we bought into it. And I know there's a way out of it. We have to unite. We have to put aside the like 10% differences, or even 20% or 30% differences we have with other people, and unite on the values that we all share, and um, destroy this in through force of our unitedness. I know it's sounding very goofy, but I really do think power over people. Um, you know, if we just keep saying no, we're not accepting this anymore, and we start voting in like the Democratic Socialists, like, you know, who we have to vote for coming up, and whenever it is it November? I put it on my IG for mayor. So, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing your name right. I don't have it in front of me, but I voted for him in primary when he blew Cuomo out of the water, and nobody saw it coming except probably his people, because he probably has some very good people with him too. And I like what that man has to say. Um, we need change. We need like change, and of course the establishment Democrats. You know, Pelosi ain't still around, but you know, all the old timers. And then our Kirsten Ingebrand, or whatever her name is, one of our politicians here, and our governor too. I don't think that they won't endorse him because they want, you know, there's just two sides of the same coin, really. The Democrats are as much as at fault for the current state of affairs as Republicans because they have not put in the work that Republicans put in. Republicans have been working on this. They've been perfecting it. They've been doing a very good job. And we're all, you know, squabbling over our, you know, individual, you know, preferences of cause, or, you know, no, it's got to be bigger than that. We've got to be bigger than that, and know that we agree on 70%. Let's say that's enough to make a huge coalition. You know, a strike, or if you want to call it like the Iceland women did, which I posted on IG. Um, Now Iceland is not as large, but I'm talking citywide. You could do this. 90% of the women in that country back in the 70s, all these different uh, women's organizations, they connected, and they compromised because the more conservative women of these burgeoning women's rights organizations didn't like the word strike, so they turned it into day off. I think they even made a stamp of it. And so, like 25,000 women took to the streets. It shut the whole state, or whole country down, or at least that city. Uh, I don't know how big Iceland is. I mean, I'm sure it's really big, but it must have been like the metropolis, or the biggest city part of Iceland. I wish I knew more about Iceland, actually, because what I hear is very good, equality wise. And I think they had their first female president in 1980. And it all started, well, not all, but I mean, I love that women in cities around the country should take a day off and just, you know, bring your kids or have the men take care of the kids. Have the men have to take off from work and stay home and take care of the kids. Though we would always have, you know, we have to have kids with us too. especially if you're a single parent, or right, if you're single. We do anyway, you know. But I would love to see that happen. People I'm just inspired by, and I feel like I don't do nearly enough, but I do more than most people do. Seriously, just in being vegan, which uh, I'm learning to be proud to say. Um, Actually, at work, I feel much more, much less, not, I feel less uncomfortable speaking it, saying it, talking about it to uh, my friends at work. But then they're a lot younger too, or a lot of them are a lot younger. And like, it just, the kids don't care about that kind of stuff nowadays. So, and I totally lost thought of where I was going with that. But I think I'm going to end it now. Ooh, I went at it now, an hour 16. But, okay. I think I'm going to watch some more Mandy. Or I've also been binging IT Crowd. I just love that show. Though I heard, I can't remember the name of the female actor lead. But she was wonderful in that show. But I read that she didn't really enjoy making that show. She felt like she wasn't right for the part. I mean, I just read like excerpts from like an interview she gave, but that makes me really sad because you would never know it. That just shows what a great actor she is. They all are great. I have a crush on. Well, I have a crush for some. Is it Chris O'Dowd? Those are just my kind of guys. Chris O'Dowd very much like my ex-husband in a way, very much so. My husband wasn't quite as gross. My husband was gross. And I don't think he was that gross, but he just and but just the IT, the whole tall IT thing, and being into video games and stuff like that. I mean, it's so. And I mean, we must have watched it together. I'm assuming we watched it together. But yes, I'm binging on that too because I need to laugh because I just haven't been feeling. Like I said, I haven't feeling. And shocker that I have to do is turn on the news, which I haven't turned on, but even without turning on the news, from people I follow, I see what is going on, and I do have my curated, highly curated news coverage, because I have to be very careful about that. But yeah, things are really bad. But um, perhaps we can learn what we didn't learn before and do it different. Do it differently this time. And that'll be my book, which is actually a play, Thornton Wilder's By the Skin of Our Teeth. Or I think it was just called Skin of Our Teeth, Thornton Wilder. And it will resonate with you. It's very relevant to what's going on today and what has always been going on. I mean, yes, this is really, 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 really bad. But for most of history, it's been really, 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 it's been just kind of like variations of really, 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 really bad for a lot of people. For most people. But yeah, we're challenging times. And so I've got to watch something funny. And now that I've had like this deep thing into Marty, I keep calling it Marty. It's not Marty, it's Mandy. I'm so sorry, Diane Morgan. I'm loving the show. I love the way you walk in the show. I love the outfit, the walk. It's perfect. Now that I see the indictment on capitalism, I may have to take a break from that and watch some more IT Crowd tonight just Let's get some laughs. Or maybe some Start Crow. It's very good. David Mitchell, another one of my crushes. I have most of my crushes are English. Yeah, and then that I will leave you. Oh, let me get my hand ready again. I have to. All right.